Hello and welcome to another episode of The Agenda by the Indian Youth Economic Association. In continuing our series on celebrating Shakti, today we will be talking about women at the Supreme Court of India. My guest today is Miss Yogendra Pava Jha, advocate on record at the Supreme Court of India. Welcome, ma'am. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hi, thank you so much, Ajay.
So today, for our guests, we will be talking about Mrs. Jha's journey at the Supreme Court, her journey and experience at the bar through the years, her experience not just restricted to the professional field, but how the fields overlap in terms of personal journey as well as the professional journey. So it's an honor to have you here with us, ma'am. I want to begin just as I do in all conversations when we have advocates. What motivated you to join the profession? What was the trigger point that led you to enroll in a law school? Why did it happen? How and why did you join a law school? And why is it that you thought you should be joining the legal profession?
Earlier on, law was never a profession of choice. So it was always, someone or the other who nudges you into this profession. Uh, so for me, it was Justice Sujata Manohar. Although I never have had any personal interaction with her, my father had happened to attend one of the conferences she had while she was a Supreme Court justice in Mumbai. And at that point of time, she somehow impressed upon the entire gathering that women lawyers are need of the hour. There should be more women in judiciary, more women in legal field, and that somehow stayed with my father. And after he heard her, he was so motivated to have his daughter in the legal field that he gave me no choice, and he said, no, that's how you want to go ahead, and that's how you will. And at that point of time, all the children used to follow whatever their parents line up for them, guide them. So that's how I chose my legal profession. And then eventually, in couple of years, I was blessed with a very good faculty in ILS Law College, Pune. And we had a lot of very good female professors. That kind of motivated me. First I thought I'll take I'll become a professor in law. But then eventually, when I saw various legal luminaries, judges, councils, I was like, yeah, this is the field for me.
That's a very interesting story that you didn't have anyone in your family who's in the legal profession.
Yeah,
You
I
don't
am a
have
first generation. Yeah.
absolutely. And despite that, you enter the legal profession because your father said so, and because he thought that that would be a good idea. Because when Justice Manohar gave that speech,
Yes.
he attended that lecture
Yeah.
and, influenced by those words, said that you should be joining law. That's a very interesting story. But that last point that you said, that you were thinking of getting into academia, becoming a law professor, but at the same time, when you met the legal luminaries, when you experienced courts, when you saw the judges and the lawyers, you decided that you want to be on this side of the profession in litigation. Now, one, as you said, you were a first generation advocate. And at that point, you were in Maharashtra, right? So these were the early days. That's where your law college was, and that's where your early days in the profession were. So, how was it at that time? What was the first chambers that you worked at? We know that you had a wide variety of work experience in your early years. What was that like? What was your experience in the early days of the profession?
So um, uh, so work culture in Pune is very, there is no female male distinction there. You work long hours, there's safety. But when I shifted to Delhi, I started with Mr. PH Parikh's chambers. And the first lesson that I got there was like, there's again no distinction between a male and a female colleague. The number of hours to work, late hours, yeah, you will get all the assistance of anybody escorting you back at late hours, or everything arranged. But when I joined the first day, I remember there were female colleagues, and I asked them, so what are the working hours here? And because that was not part of my interview, so the female, all the ladies said, yeah, by 9 everybody has to be there, because Mr. Parekh has a conference at 9:15 for all the matters listed that day at 9:15 a.m. I said okay, and I was waiting for the answer to come. The when do we go off? No, none came. So then I asked them, oh, so by when do we get off? And they're like, there's no set hours. It depends on your work, and that's when I realized that there's no leniency only because you're a woman, or you come from a married family, or you're new to the profession. Nothing like that. You have to put in those hard work. You have to put in those hours. You have to. So that is first lesson that I got early in my life, and I cherish that, because now that's the tone that is set for me.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned something that it doesn't matter if you come from a married life. And that gets me to my next question. Uh, so, you're married to an advocate as well. Mr. Jha is an advocate. You were together at law school, if I'm correct. Right. So, you're part of the same profession. Both of you work in the Supreme Court of India, but you have independent practices. Right? There might be times, considering you are an AOR and he's an arguing counsel, there will be times when there's a client that's coming to you, there's a client that's, or there's perhaps one brief where there is overlapping work, right, despite the fact that you're independent practices. There might be times that you're working together because it's the nature of the profession and it's the space at the Supreme Court. So what is that like? Uh, what is the experience in such an environment? Because that's where the personal and the professional overlap, right?
So, Ajay, there definitely is patriarchy, patriarchal mindset prevalent in our society. And when, as a young female lawyer, when I started out, and I used to sit in the chamber, when I became independent eventually, and I started sitting with Harsh and with my father-in-law in the Supreme Court chambers, there would people would walk in, and we would discuss. But so one such instance I remember, and I would like to narrate that, is after I became an advocate on record, someone walked into the chamber. Harsh was not around, and I was handling the client, and we dealt with the matter. We discussed the case, and we discussed the nuances, and I said, okay, this is the approach we will take, and he was very fine with everything. I mean, he was like, yes मैडम, आप ये करिए, आप वो करिए, ऐसा ठीक है, ये ठीक है, हम ये करेंगे, वो all fine. At the end of the conversation, he's like, अच्छा मैडम जी, साहब कब आएंगे, साहब कहाँ हैं? एंड आई वाज लाइक, युगंधरा पवार झा जो बोर्ड पे नाम है, वो मैं हूँ, मैं साहब हूँ यहाँ का. So he was taken aback that okay, madam ही हमारी advocate on record है. This is changing now, of course. I mean, there people are recognizing you as a, as women can be advocate on record, or advocates, or of authority, and can lead your case and can represent you very well in any forum. But yes, that mindset does exist, and there are people who would still wait for a sahabji to be there around you. So that is something that women lawyers tend to work around. And but I'll tell you this also, that there are many people who help shatter these differences of patriarchal mindsets and male and female. So these lines are getting diffused, but there is somewhere where you have to fight out, you have to present yourself and be there to comfort your client, be it client or judge or anybody, that women are no less and they are equal somewhere.
I think we're just 10 minutes into the conversation, and I think I already have my big headline from this podcast. मैं युगेंद्र पावा झा हूं और यहाँ का साहब मैं हूं. I think that's absolutely perfect and brilliant, because and to that I want to add in on this part. Uh, would you say that something like that is possible? Not just the fact that you would just say it, but because that's what it is in practice. Is possible because, one, you are an independent practitioner. Two, and more importantly so, because you're an advocate on record at the Supreme Court. So no matter who is the arguing counsel, no matter who is engaged, ultimately, without your signatures on that piece of paper, it will not go through. Do you think that that effort that you put in over the years, it's not just an exam, it's also the fact that an AOR builds a practice. It's
Yeah.
not just that you clear it,
Right.
but also the fact that you build up an AOR practice. Do you think that contributes to something like that?
So respect, as usual, has to be earned. It does not come with a label or a name. So as anybody, and this does not, it's not about a female lawyer, a female advocate on record. It's for any advocate, it's for anybody who wants to make a mark in this legal profession. You have to earn that respect, be it from your client, be it from your senior counsels, be it your colleagues, be it from your staff, or be it in front of the judges. It is over time, the way you handle your matters, the honesty that you bring to your brief, to your profession, to your work, your sincerity, your dedication is all seen through, and that is somewhere, that is how you kind of bring that respect to you. It doesn't come with just being an advocate on record. You have to actually toil, yeah, you actually have to, and that goes, like I said, this is not about a female advocate on record. This is for anybody who wants to be in litigation, because there is, as they say, litigation has a gestation period, and that is true, and you will have to go through the process to get somewhere.
Well, you say that there's a long period, right, of time that requires one to build up and to build up a practice. And in those years, very often we see, and I'm moving away from when I began on marriage to now children. Right? Very often we see, not just in the legal profession, but particularly so in the legal profession, that when married women also become mothers. So when women become mothers, uh, obviously there is a break in terms of the time period which you've been spending at a particular workplace, not just the legal profession, anywhere. So, what are the changes on your professional front after you became a mother? You're a mother to two kids, right? So, what were the changes in your profession? What do you see changing? Do you see a break? Do you see positives? What changed on the professional front when you became a mother?
you know um, so as you said, I have two children, and at both times I did take certain amount of break. First time when I took it was while I was in litigation. The second time when I was working in corporate. uh, you know at both the time when I joined back, there was a sense of fear, uh, feeling that there is a break now. I've lost out on some time, and how will I join back? And whether I'll be whether I'll be able to do the work, whether I will have that edge that I had earlier. My colleagues have moved ahead of me. These were the primary anxiety points for me. which I think resonates with many other women at that point of time. But I've seen one thing: if you come back, you give your 100%, you come back with full vigor, wanting with the mindset to work, to get ahead, or to come to the point where you left, there's nothing stopping you. And I've had female bosses, very impressive female bosses, who have helped me understand this, that in Indian legal fraternity, or globally, not just legal fraternity, anywhere, there are women who take these breaks, who come back and come back with full vigor. So nothing should stop me, to have children, take my break, and come back to my work. And I feel that actually panned out really well for me, because my female bosses were very supportive in that, during that phase, be it flexible working hours, be it work from home, be it letting me get back on things in a spaced out manner. All these were accommodative initiative they gave me, which kind of put me into a phase where I could deal with maternity, and it was not stressful for me. I did not ever think of maternity break as as a weakening link for me in my profession. It never. And now I won't even say there was a break, because it has actually worked out so well. So earlier, when I was in litigation, I took that break. I left an organization which was, which demanded a lot of work from me. I mean, long working hours. So after maternity, I joined a law firm which gave me less working hours, but gave me variety. So yeah, I could handle Supreme Court, High Court, other forums as well. National Commission, MRTP at that point of time. So that ways I gained. And in corporate also, I started working on not just India business, but international transactions, trans-border transactions. So so because I was working from home at particular time point of time, so I used to attend conference calls which would be in late at night with US times. So that really panned out really well for me, and I don't look at it as a break at all. So you can actually make it work to your advantage.
Now, that gets me to my next question regarding financial independence. Right? This is something we've been discussing with the other panelists in the series celebrating Shakti over the last 10 odd days, who've emphasized time and again on women having financial independence, right? In terms of working, saving, having revenue streams.
Absolutely.
So, to what extent would you say? And obviously, it's I would say it's far more easier for someone in, let's say, the financial sector. It's far more easier for someone who's only on the corporate sector to be able to do it, right? Men or women. But for advocates, for women in litigation specifically, the importance of financial independence, because it's difficult. Right? At least the financial freedom path is a rugged, it's a slow, it's a steep path for everyone, right? So, what is your take on that specifically, as to how to be able to do it, the importance of something like that? You said that you were a corporate counsel for a while, right? And you had a variety of experience in terms of being with filing chambers, being with firms, being with an in-house corporate setup, right? And then you move to litigation, and that too as an advocate on record, that at the Supreme Court of India. So you've had that experiences. Obviously, all of these sectors have different financial streams, right? The path to financial independence is different through all of these routes, right? Um, if you'd like to add about any of these fields specifically, and obviously in the context of litigation, right? Perhaps those who are looking at it right at the starting threshold, right? If they're looking at entering at that stage, uh, what advice would you have there? And obviously, if there's any specific anecdote, we've been discussing them in that context. If you'd like to add there.
Um, so, it is extremely important, and I would like to emphasize, like all your other panelists, to have financial independence. And it is not just so that you have money, it's for your self worth, it's for your self respect, it's for, the respect that you can make yourself worth it. And it's not about the amount that you're earning, it's not about the savings in your bank account. It's just sheer knowledge that you are a lawyer, and you are providing sustenance to so many of your staff members. You are doing a good balance for your household, from financial perspective. You earn that kind of respect from your children, from your staff, from your colleagues. So just to have that is very important. uh, you know uh, Nowadays, all households, you have to have a male and female balance. It can't just be like earlier times. The man is the wears the pants in the house, and that's how it works. No, now, men and we, if I'm asking for equality in other spheres, I have to be equal at home as well,
Hmm.
in discharging my financial responsibilities and my financial burdens at home as well. So, that's where I would say be financially independent. In litigation, extremely difficult. It will trickle in. It's not like, like you said, I worked in corporate sector, in law firms. It's not as easy in the Supreme Court or in litigation. But once it starts, you can look up to it, and you are there then. But you have, as I said, you have to work towards it. You have to go through the process. You have to put in those number of hours. You have to do that much hard work. You have to do that much research. You have to actually deal with so many cases to kind of get to that position where you can demand a certain amount of fee, demand a certain amount of the fees that you would command to discharge a case or to work on, because that's the kind of work that you would do, and that's the sincerity you will give to the work. And once you can establish that, then there is no end to it. And that can be seen by, your colleagues will see it. Nowadays, so online hearing hai, so there are so many people logging in. They see the nature of work that you have, the how you command respect of the courts. So it that's how you showcase your talent and earn that respect, and get that kind of money. So that's how you will earn and get financial independence.
The, the path to independence is always through struggle. There's no doubt about that. But one thing that I want to now get to, and this is what I would say is the core, the meat of the discussion that I wanted to have is, and for our viewers, I'll share a small incident, and then I'll get to the specific point on women at the Supreme Court bar and advocates on record at the Supreme Court bar. So this is the anecdote that I'm sharing is perhaps from the first day when courts opened after COVID, where the Supreme Court specifically opened for physical hearing for the very first time after COVID. And there was an incident where, obviously, for those who are regulars at the Supreme Court know that it's very difficult to enter court one, especially around the morning when there's a lot of mentioning happening, where there are a lot of people lined up. There's a long queue, and at that point, this is the first day after COVID. It wasn't even a queue; it wasn't a straight line. It was a huddle after a huddle after a huddle, and it was very difficult to get in. Uh, so at that point, I was required to get in some judgments uh, for my senior, and at that time went to the e-library, got some printouts. And this was all absolutely last minute. The matter was basically about to be called out. I was huddling through a lot of people, got to the gate, and the security personnel said that I can't let you in. I said, I'm just to give these judgments and then I will come out. And that's what I understood it to be. The guard went ahead and started following me inside the court, as very often happens. So by the time I gave the judgments to my senior, I had Miss Jha standing right there, and the guard, even though he was just about to ask me to get out because the job was absolutely done, she signaled to the guard that there was a vacant chair at the back. She signaled me to go and sit there while she was standing and waiting for her matter as well. And that was the first time, my first instance that I met Ms. Jha at the Supreme Court. And why I bring this incident, right, specifically, now that I've given a good background, that now the context is clear. Now I'll get to the specific part about my question about women at the Supreme Court. Right? And very often we've seen that, and this is my understanding of the types of lawyers they are, right? Every lawyer has to be hardworking. But then I see sort of two specific categories. The one who are the scholarly kind, who would be very well read with the law, would be very well read with judgments and the interpretation of the law and the academic side of things, which is an essential element, no doubt. And then on the other side, you have a category of advocates, जिनके लिए लोग कहते हैं हाँ ये लड़ लेता है. The fact of sort of going there on a Monday or a Friday and getting into a good duel with the opposite side to make sure that you get that instant relief. Now, there is no doubt about it. In the latter category, there is an element of physicality involved. There's an element of, if it's not entirely brute force, there's at least a small element of, if brute force might not be the right phrase, there's a certain amount of aggression that we often see is either mandated or people look forward to looking at something like that. Right? And that's the general nature of the profession. Okay, if you're an advocate, you're supposed to be very aggressive. But now, what I saw at that particular day in Court 1 was that Ms. Jha was not looking at fighting necessarily, and that becomes the instinct of advocates, at least the likes of mine, that when we look at or talk to police officers, the instinct becomes, listen, you have to let me go through. And it almost leads to a point where it's aggression versus aggression. But what I saw with Ms. Jha that particular day in Court 1 was that the job of an advocate, the role of an advocate, is not just about fighting to get the job done, but just to get the job done. And that's why I want to get you in that on one level, the Supreme Court is also a melting pot. You have multiple local cultures coming together, converging into the Supreme Court. But at the same time, so that's the one balancing act. The other part of the advocate and record is you're just supposed to balance the interests of what the client is saying or what the senior wants you to say. Ultimately, it's going to be the judge because you have to make sure that you accommodate everything the judge is saying as well. So there are multiple balancing acts here, right? And I see the role of an advocate on record as that of a fragile and long thread from the judge to the senior to the arguing counsel standing there down to the client, right? And as much as we've seen the aggression that is very often considered to be, if I may, very mandatory, I saw that particular time. It's a very small incident. It wasn't even an argument in that sense, but I saw that one could not just do without it, but one could do very well without it if need be. So what would you like to say about that specifically, right? The fact that there are multiple cultures coming in together. We can see that with your background, right? You came in from Maharashtra, right? You're practicing in Delhi. You're married to Mr. Jha, who's from Bihar, right? So you have experienced those multiple local cultures coming to the Supreme Court. At the same time, you've been an advocate on record in the biggest cases and the biggest litigations that are disposed of and pending today at the Supreme Court of India, right? So you have seen, and you're required to, on a daily basis in that, required to balance those interests. And that's ultimately the role of an advocate there. So, what would you like to add about that kind of an experience? And on that end, so we can only see the person who's doing the balancing act, but the person who's doing the balancing act, their point of view must obviously be uh, more important. And on that, we'd like to hear from you as to what is your experience specifically at the Supreme Court as an AOR. I'm sure it requires its levels of stress, it requires its levels of commitment, and all of that's there. But we would like to hear from you as to your experiences specifically in this context.
Wow, long question. But
My apologies.
there are two parts to it. One, you said passive aggressive, and the other thing that you said, being an advocate on record in the Supreme Court of India. Passive, first I'll address to passive aggressive. I have seen so many senior counsels, so many, uh, you know, uh, lawyers, advocates on record who are very polite, respectful at the bar. The way they present their cases to the judges is in a very uh, polite manner. They don't raise their voices, be aggressive, but they do put their point across. They, as they say, don't raise your voice, better your argument. You know, it's that's the policy that I would like to follow. Instead of being disrespectful or being impolite to the bench, there is a certain amount of respect that you need to maintain, the decorum that you have to maintain as an advocate, because our legal profession is not just a job. It's not just a job, it's a way of life. It's the way you conduct yourself throughout, you know through towards your clients, towards your staff, towards your colleagues, towards your to the bench. So if you imbibe that, it will reflect. So maybe that's something that you saw, and thank you so
Right.
much for noticing something like that. But yeah,
I
the
was the
other.
beneficiary. There is no way I couldn't have noticed. So this is what I said. I said I was a beneficiary of Ms. Jha's kindness the first day
Mm.
back in the Supreme Court after years.
We
So
have had kind seniors to us as well, who have really worked, who have really helped us. I still remember my first day in the Supreme Court. The first day I joined Mr. Parikh's chamber, was made to appear and mention a matter in court one. Justice Barucha was the Chief Justice. I was standing, it was mentioning. So I was standing, I was to mention it first. Next to me was Mr. P.H. Parekh, who was my boss. That was the first day in Chief's Court before Chief Justice Barucha, who had a very difficult, he was a very strict judge in appearance and in demeanor. So when I was shivering, I was like literally shivering because it was my first day. So I had actually literally wrote down what I have to speak, how I have to mention, and what I will say. And I said, started, Your Lordship, may I seek your kind indulgence? And then, somehow I looked at Mr. Parekh and he just nodded, and just that gave me so much courage that I could finish the rest of the mentioning, and it just went through and it was allowed. But these kindness, if we as colleagues don't show to our junior colleagues, to our to our to the students of law, then what are they going to look forward to and what they're going to do to their own juniors. So we all have to lead by example, and we also learn from our seniors. So that is one thing. Coming back to the Supreme Court, advocate on record practice, melting point, I couldn't agree more. So I look at Supreme Court as national office of prominence
justice,
in, yeah, in India.
national justice.
Yeah, you have people you deal with on a daily basis coming from variety of regions. You will have your clerk coming from Himachal Pradesh. They'll be, your typist is from Rajasthan. Your juniors are from Punjab. You yourself are a Maharashtrian married to a Bihari. You have, certain clients walking in from, either Karnataka or, Bangalore, wherever. So you deal with all, including judges. I mean, we have variety. I mean, the judges come from all regions. So it is definitely a melting point, and that is something that is very attractive to me, because there's learning all the time. These different people will get so many different perspectives. There are so many, it's just like male and female, like even different sexes get a different perspective. Be women will be more sensibly aware of things. They have more sensitivity towards certain issues, and they can actually handle a particular situation in a different manner than how a man would attend to. So all these things really attract me to this national office of Supreme Court. And this whole learning is there. The balancing act, yes, as an advocate on record, you are the thread between your clients, your counsels, if you don't have any counsel, you with your, with the judges. So you definitely have to somewhere, have to tread finely between all these platforms. But one thing I definitely say, just be true to your brief. Once you give the whole and soul and sincerity to your work, none of these threads will break, and you can tread on them very easily. uh, do your homework, do your research, do your uh, you know uh, what uh, like Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg says, and that's something which I really often quote. I would like to be remembered as someone who used whatever talent they had, I had, to the very best of my ability. So, that is something that I would say, like, as an advocate on record, just do that. Do to the best of your ability, best to your brief, best to your work, and then you can really tread these fine lines very well, and you can be a effective advocate on record, and you can really put forth your case very well then.
Yeah. So I think moving from Jha Saab to Justice Ginsburg, back to Jha Saab now. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us for this lovely session, for this very good evening that we've had, and we wish you the very very best, and our best wishes to our viewers and to you and your family for Holi. And thank you so much once again for joining us.
Thank you so much, Ajay. It was very nice to have this discussion and to be on your platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The pleasure is entirely ours.
Thank
Thank you
you.
everyone for joining in. Good night.